My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC picks and DraftKings lineups run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. Every week, I join Nick Newell, professional fighter, professional model, and ESPN Top 10 guest, along with Dan Kramer, UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, Ultimate Fighter alumni, and Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. And we break down every single fight, the betting odds, the DraftKings picks, and we set you up for success. This week, we're breaking down UFC 258, Usman versus Burns. So our co-main event of the evening for UFC 258, Usman versus Burns. It is not an exciting co-main event as far as names and star power is concerned, but I'll tell you right now, this is an exciting co-main event as far as fight entertainment is concerned. We have two primary strikers in the women's flyweight division in Maycee Barber and Alexa Grasso. I think this is really just going to come down to who has better timing and who has more power. This is striker versus striker. I don't imagine there'll be much of anything else going on here. Nick, I'm going to go to you. How do you see this going? Do you agree it's primarily striking? And if so, which direction do you think?
I think that it's a little more than that. Both have struck in the past in their fights. The more technical striker to me is Grasso. She has a great jab. She works behind it. She fights long. She moves. And Maycee is a little bit more of a bull. She moves forward and she throws hooks and she outworks her opponent. There's been fights where she's been down and she came back and won. When it comes to grappling, I believe that Maycee is a better grappler. I believe that she is the better wrestler, but I don't know if she's good enough to take Grasso down and hold her there enough to submit her. I feel like Grasso has had the tougher fights and has been through more and far more of a who's who. The difference maker is the weight class. Grasso is moving up to 125 for the first time. Maycee has fought at 115 as well, but she actually had a hard time making flyweight last time. She's young. She's coming off a big injury. She completely blew out her knee versus Roxanne. And it's been a long layoff. If I had to favor someone, I would favor Grasso in this fight. But Maycee might just bite down on her mouthpiece, start throwing some bombs, maybe take her down and win the fight that way. So I am staying away from it.
You bring up a good point in that loss to Roxanne. That was like upset of the year last year. And that hit her hard. Maycee Barber, her father, like that whole family went haywire after that loss because they just thought that was a sure thing. In no world does she lose that fight. And after the loss, Maycee handled it really well. She took the loss and, handled it classy. Her father went on a whole world tour talking about her knee was blown out and making excuses. And I get it. I have two daughters and I don't imagine I would react very differently, but I agree with you. That was a bad injury. It was a bad loss in that it was to somebody, that they sort of use to gauge if you should even be in the UFC or not, let alone if you're going to be the next big thing. And I don't know how hard that actually hit her. I don't know what that did to her psyche after that loss, after that injury. And she's coming right back to a vet that's had a lot of solid fights. And granted, as you mentioned, a smaller vet, but this is definitely an interesting fight. Dan, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, do you think that loss affected her at all? Or do you think the injury may have affected her? And what are your thoughts on the fight?
I mean, I think the loss honestly may have helped her. I think it was her first loss, right? So, as a fighter, at least for me, when I had my first loss, I was so motivated to get back in there and kind of, right the wrongs and figure things out and just improve. So, the injury, I think obviously doesn't help, right? It was a full blown ACL. Is that what it was? I know the ref went in there and did like a human MRI on it in the middle of the fight, but let's assume it was a really long layoff. That's the only concern I have. I think Barber is going to win this fight. Grasso looks like, a very solid striker. I agree with Nick. She looks more technical. She keeps her hands up. She's got a solid jab, good punching technique. Not a lot of footwork. She's kind of a little flat-footed. She'll stay in front of you, but she's okay with trading. So, and then Barber, just looking at her fight record, she's got almost all finishes except for her last fight where, she blew her knee out basically in the first, I think, minute of the second round. She got taken down a little bit, but I don't think that'll be a factor in this fight. So I think this is just a totally different matchup than her last fight. I anticipate this to be a slugfest with a lot of points. I think it's going to be close. I think Grasso will be a little bit more technical, but I'm going to take Barber as the cheaper, more physical fighter with more finishing power. So I'll take her at the 7,900, hoping for a slugfest that she can get a win and might even get a finish. So my pick is Barber. I think she'll win, and I'm to put her in my DraftKings.
So you brought up an interesting point with once you get that first loss, for some people, it might be a relief, meaning there was a lot of pressure leading up to that, which that could be the case here. Other people, it drives you to push harder. I just want to go back to you really quick, Nick. Your first loss was Justin Gaethje, and you were like 16-0 or 12-0 or something like that at the time with all first round stoppages. Did that loss, after that loss, was there some sort of relief, or you just wanted to go even harder and just get right back at it? What were your thoughts after that, and what do you think it does for her?
Yeah, I had to take some time off actually because I tore my MCL during that camp, and I had a knee injury. Not that it affected me in the fight; the adrenaline was going. I felt fine, so it's not really an excuse. But I was motivated after. That's the thing you deal with. I fought before, I wrestled. I've lost plenty of times and bounced back, and it wasn't really that hard for me to overcome mentally. Obviously training and being hurt is a little more frustrating than anything else to me than the loss itself. It's the preparation that kills you and the little nagging things that you have to go to get a fight camp done. But at the end of the day, you do everything you can, you get ready, and sometimes things happen. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, as long as you give it your all. And she showed her heart in that fight. She was kind of getting her ass kicked. She fell apart, and she never gave up, and she showed that she's a true fighter and a true warrior. So I'm not too worried about that affecting her. I just think from a technical standpoint, the cleaner striker is Grasso.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I pick, I'm worried about the psyche with such a long, the injury, the layoff, how she lost, where she lost, who she lost to. I'm a little worried about that, but I do pick, I'm picking Maycee to win. I think she has more power. I think she's the better fighter in general, but I think the power is the difference maker here. Jacob, I watched you get smoked in a golf match, and that's your thing. And you came back and you did okay the next time. How did that feel? And what are your thoughts on a layoff after a loss like this?
I don't recall that at all. I've never lost in my mind. My prediction for this fight is I think that if the coconut bombs Cuban Missile fight is not the fight of the night, I honestly think that this is going to be the fight of the night. These girls throw leg kicks like I've never seen. I love the way Alexa Grasso finishes. She throws wild combination, 3-4 punch combinations, and every combination she throws, she follows it with a leg kick. It's crazy how many leg kicks these girls throw. This is going to be a wild fight. And I love how you guys alluded to Maycee being a fighter, because she is a fighter. And I believe her brother is in Bellator too. So her whole family is fighters. That's all she knows is fighting. She talked about it in the Embedded this week, that's when COVID hit and she couldn't train. She's like, what do I do now? That's all I know is fighting. So I think that she gets it done. And I think she gets it done with a toughness. Alexa is a great fighter. She's very technical. She looks a bit more patient to me than Maycee. And I think Maycee can get in there, especially after a loss. Sometimes you come in and you really overwhelm people. I think that she definitely can do that, overwhelm Alexa. So actually, I have two lineups I'm going back and forth with. But as I talk about Maycee in my head, I think I'm going to go with the lineup that I have Maycee in my lineup. So I'm picking her to win the fight, and I think that I'm going to have Maycee in my lineup. At $7,900, I think that she is as good a fighter as Grasso, and I think she's just going to be a little bit tougher. And coming off that loss, I think she gets it done.
Yeah, we'll see. So it should be an exciting fight. The majority here is going with Maycee for the win. She's the underdog. She's the cheaper fighter. But 3 out of 4 of us think she's going to get it done, with Nick being the only one going for Alexa Grasso, which is not a crazy pick considering her experience and her sort of precise striking. And she is moving up in weight, and that may help as far as speed is concerned, but we'll see what happens on Saturday. Before you go, check out the description below. In there, we have links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and more importantly, to our DraftKings League. Check out the league, join the league, participate in the contests, and as we get going and as you start winning, we're going to start handing out gift cards and participating and doing things like that. So check those out. Every week, there are drops on every fight card. So make sure you check out this channel and our social media on Saturday before the fights start so that you have our most updated lineups and picks.